Hey, it's Lomentini lit up, and that's usually how I start my pods. But this thing's going to be taking a big turn. The last time, and I know I'm smiling, guys, but that's the only way I can be right now because I am alive. A lot has happened in the last month, and the last time that Greg and I were on this together, it was a very somber moment.
It
It
was.
was very fresh in our minds, and I was still in shock. Hey, before we get any further, this is going to be a very deep discussion, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things: depression, anxiety, and suicide. And so, I'm going to be calling this podcast and the journey of this podcast "Surviving Suicide" and all the crap in between. And all the crap in between is all the stuff that kind of gets us to that point that where we just sometimes, without help, you can't decipher and you end up going the wrong direction. So at
Yeah.
the bottom of the screen, guys, there is a number 1-800-273-8255. That is a suicide prevention hotline, as well as on your phone. All you have to do is hit 988, man. Someone's there to talk to you. You're not in trouble. Okay. If you're feeling bad or if you know of anybody that is feeling that way, don't hesitate to call because they're not in trouble. They just need some help. And I just recently went through that help. I didn't call. Wow. I wish I would have, a lot of, wow. Long story short, for all of those that may have been following us that have seen what's going on, have from the beginning. Uh, Unfortunate situation with my wife, and she is no longer my wife. That was a very tough thing for me. I was in shock, and we came out here, and I was desperate to do a podcast with Greg just to kind of get my mind as straight as I possibly could from such an event that was such a catastrophic event. It was like this massive meltdown
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge. It is a huge event. I can't even quantify it. But when it comes to a place of, divorce, this is a life-changing event.
And there's going to be a lot of gaps here. So, guys, we're going to fill in as much as we can with this stuff. And long story short, I basically took my life last Wednesday, and I got a scar forever and a raspy voice. So that's what I got out of it. And I did it in grand fashion. If Patrick's going to do something, he's going to do it in a big way. Instead of just going off into some ditch somewhere, I decided to do it at my place of work. Listen, the loss of my wife was more than I could handle at times. I spent 2 days on the beach just, praying, meditating, just listening to the waves. I mean, the ocean's so powerful. I felt great. I felt redeemed, and I could, you just can't help yourself. I'm not supposed to talk to my wife, not supposed to reach out during the whole process, but I just couldn't help myself. Send some videos, send some texts. I miss her, the type of stuff. And it's hard not to, when you love something like that. But, the thing that I've realized is I came back, and I drove back from Destin, Florida, and I could have just drove straight home or to where I was staying. I could have called you. I could have called one of 180 clients. I could have called my pastor friend Jonathan. I could have called my roommate Bill. I could have called anybody. I could have called my mom. But I didn't. I chose in my darkness to drive to my place of work and put a zip tie around my neck and die. Now, I didn't have an EMS. I didn't have any medical person say I was dead. I said I was dead because I can't explain having a zip tie around my neck for laying and then passing out for over almost 11 hours on the floor. Can barely breathe, face is purple, eyes are bugged out. And at 10 o'clock that next morning, I get a knock at the door. And I'm so out of it and delirious. I'm thinking, who is at the shop at 10 o'clock at night? Who could possibly be here at 10 o'clock? I look out the window and it's my client, Michael. And I'm like, what is he doing here at night trying to get a haircut? And then I realize I had a complete day booked of hair appointments. I just, in my darkness and in my blindness, I did not even think about the day after before I put that noose around my neck or that zip tie. To think that I have a full day of clients next tomorrow and Saturday. But no, I was just so focused on being done with it because I was so distraught about my wife leaving me And the next day was the divorce. And so I had a choice. I had a choice of either leaving that on my neck and just not answering the door and just being done. But something overcame me. And here we are. I opened the door. I looked at Michael. Michael's face turned white. And he said, "What the F?" And this is a Christian guy, very Christian guy, not a cuss word out of his mouth. And he said, "What the F are you doing?" I said, "Help me cut this off my neck." And I could barely talk. I said, "Yeah, we got it." You know, and I looked horrible. I can't imagine what it looked like. And he tried, we tried, and I was bleeding because he couldn't get the scissors up underneath the zip tie. And finally, we got it off. And I go into this. We're just going to talk about it, and then we got a lot of other stuff we'll get to. I promise everybody. But I wanted to share this with everybody because there's a point to this. If there could be a point. He helped me get that off, and I go into defensive mode or backtrack mode as to it's not what it looks like. It's not what it seems, Greg. This thing around my neck and all this blood and my face turning purple, it's not what you think it is. I was just goofing around with the zip tie, and it got too far. You go into this denial. He bought it long enough, and then another customer came, and then during that process, he had texted me like, "Hey, let's go have breakfast. And let me kind of get you out of there." He says, and then before I know it, I don't know if it was a minute or 2 minutes, the whole circus was there. The police, EMS, fire department. And then, of course, not only that, but it was a regular day of work at the shop. All these other places were doing business and hair people and their clients. So this big, gigantic circus. And all I had to do is go home. All I had to do is go home, get up, and have another day of work. But no. So when it just came and dawned on me, this is something that I need to share. And how did we get here? And all the stuff in between. So I'm going to put this on you now, my friend.
Yeah. So I appreciate, obviously, I appreciate you being here, and there's going to be a value in everything you share. And I'm going to ask you a question, and then this could help everyone else listening as well when they find themselves in that situation. What changed from the day before to now?
The day before what?
That's a good question. The day before you put the zip tie around your neck.
I wanted to make another point before I get to that. What's the real point of me doing what I did? I mean, seriously, what did I do? I pushed it wrong. Can we still hear each other? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we're good. My point being earlier is, now I didn't make my point. Why do people most likely commit suicide or do what they're trying to do with the suicide attempt? We are trying to accomplish and get somebody's attention, right? So by me doing that to myself, I'm trying to do what? Reach out to my wife to show her how much I love her, that I'm willing to kill myself for her. Come on, man. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter either way. Dead or alive, she's still gone. We're divorced. She's not my wife. So why not be alive and help others go through what I went through? So I'm going to be spending this time and helping those that are one step behind me. I've reached this level of clarity. I've reached this level of healing. I've reached this level of maturity. I've reached this level of spirituality in my relationship with God. And that happened because of that moment. I had a choice of staying there on that floor or opening the door to Michael and saying, "Help me get this off my neck." Because it was that moment, at that clarity, that I realized how stupid this was. Because guess what? I still don't have a wife. So why not use this moment to do what Greg was talking about, and we'll get deeper into it. It's talking about leveling up and leveling down. If I said that correctly. There is a place in our journey, and this is where I'm at my journey, and I want to help those that are a level down. Is that the right way? ancient?
Yeah, I mean, to say down, I mean, ultimately, the way that I suggest, there's always someone one chapter behind us and one chapter ahead of us.
Right, chapter.
And so, you made a statement earlier. I'm sure it'll come to mind, and you can share it. I heard Viktor Frankl say, which I love his work, and him as a human being is pretty incredible. But he said, "Suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning." And so wherever we're at on our chapter, wherever we're at on our journey, and I mean wherever we're at, like if we're at ground zero, there's someone one chapter behind that. There's someone that's about to hit ground zero. They didn't actually hit it yet, whatever the case may be. And I think that there's value and redemption in, you have your journey ahead of you. I don't know exactly what that's going to look, sound, and feel like. You have your journey of forgiving yourself. You have your journey of responsibility. You have your journey of regrowth. You have a spiritual journey ahead of you. I'm going to suggest, right? That doesn't mean you're already on a spiritual journey. I'm just suggesting that it doesn't end, so there's one ahead.
You had stepped out and mentioned that to everybody listening. I'm at a new level of clarity. I'm at a new level of understanding, a new level of spirituality in my walk with God and all of that, because even though I got baptized, even though I went to Destin, Florida, and walked the beach and did all those things that you thought, oh my God, this is going to bring closer to God, somehow you still drove home and went and did what you did. So, my question is to God and to Jesus, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to put it on, is like, okay, why? Why? I think God puts us all on this earth, and that's the only way to really deal with it, right? We're all here for a purpose. Right?
I believe it.
And we talked about it at lunch today. I've done a lot of things in my life. I've traveled the entire country, been to all 50 states, did the Barkey North American tour. What was the purpose of that? Was it self-fulfilling purpose, or was it a purpose that I wanted to save dogs and that was my purpose in life? Or, the things I've done with other issues in my life and stuff. But this one cuts deep because it's not only something that I am dealing with, but it's something that a lot of people are dealing with. And so how can I use this? We talked about it in that first one that we did on this subject several weeks ago. It seemed like almost 3 months ago. It seems like forever. This whole thing is only 1 month fresh. That's the whole thing. That's some hard to believe. But I just find clarity in my purpose. I can still do hair. I can still do all the different things in my life. But now there's a purpose involved, and I feel like I can actually help somebody because I've been through it. And we're going way off script here now. But,
let's bring it right back on, if you will, if that's okay. The thing that I'm highlighting it again is, we're all on a journey. We're all somewhere on that journey. We're all on a certain chapter, and I believe that the value begins to, so we get rid of that suffering. Again, we talked about, you still have this spiritual journey, you still have that for journey of self-forgiveness. There's possibly the journey of forgiving other people that have done things to around you, because of you, whatever the case may be. A responsibility journey, all those things, we're all somewhere on our journey. And I believe that suffering ceases to be suffering the moment that it finds meaning. How can you share? As rhetorically speaking, I mean, when I say you, I'm speaking to everybody, actually, if you will, including self. How can we transparently share whatever chapter we're on, because there's someone one chapter behind us that desperately needs that information?
So what information can I share right now with what we're doing right now? What chapter am I on, and what chapter can I help with?
So, and of course I can't know this, but what about, something that I heard you say that I thought was really powerful. I was like, ooh, so now you have purpose. How'd you find your purpose? And it sounds like it was part of spiritual. I like to say spiritual for everyone out there. You may also say religious, if that would be your choice. It sounds like through that spiritual journey, you found purpose, but forgive me for overlaying anywhere else that's not right. How did you find that purpose? And I think when other people are able to find purpose that are one chapter behind you, that they're going to be doing a little bit better.
That's a phenomenal question. It's interesting. It's almost as if it reminds me of cutting hair. And people are like, how did you do that haircut? I'm like, I don't know, I just did it. And it wasn't until they told me that I needed to go teach that haircut that I had to actually break it down and say,
How did I do that?
I did it because I did this first, and then I did that first, second, and third, and fourth, and fifth. And just like you said, you want to go make a pizza, there's a process. So it's interesting because I went through the process of shock and denial of the situation
Yep.
and trying to digest it the best I could. And what is my first reaction? To reach out to the person that left me to say, I'm so sorry. I went through that process and grieving and crying. I can't live my life without you and all that stuff. And then you get to a point where it's almost like, you ever had that moment where a guy or somebody wants to talk to you about their problem and they talk about it for so long? It's all they want to talk about with you, and then their eyes glaze over and they're like, oh, there's got to be something more to this guy than this fucking problem. And I actually got that way with myself. I was like, I'm kind of sick of this. And I guess the part that was hard to get through was understanding that the other person and the other parties just couldn't understand my situation. But you made a great point about alcohol. It wasn't the problem, it was a solution.
There's a deeper problem.
For a deeper
There's a
problem.
deeper problem. Like that was what we were using to solve.
I'm not saying that as an excuse or anything else. I own up to everything that's happened. That's not the point.
What if I?
But
If you don't mind, thank you. Forgive me because I dove right in there. What if I suggest it? And that's huge. That I like how you said, like, hey, how did you cut hair? Like, I don't know, just do it. And then when it was time to teach it, you had to figure out, you had to break down your own strategy. How am I doing this? What's step 1, step 2, step 3? So I think that's a great journey for you to go on finding, like, how did I find purpose? But I'm also going to suggest something that I'm going to project for you and then to everyone is something that I identified with. So this is just me, about how you found purpose is you are willing to share your story. So I say that to say, think about, I don't know that I would have the audacity or I don't know, I'd have the courage to share my story this early on if I was living your journey right now. Maybe I would, but I don't know that I would. Your courage to share it, like, here's where I'm at. Here's what just happened. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to suggest, I'm projecting here, right? And there's more than this anyway. But that is part of your purpose. It now has meaning. You're sharing back with other people. What I want to share with everyone that's listening to this is no matter where you're at in your story, when you're willing to stand in your power, can you